I'm David Fender. I'm the chairman of Malcolm Cat Protection Society here in Cyprus. We're a non-profit organisation, in other words a charity, and we were set up 30 years ago. It's a legend, but I think it's probably got some basis in truth. Apparently in the 3rd century AD, when Constantine the Great invaded the island, it was in the middle of a long drought, and the island was overrun with venomous snakes and other reptiles, and his mother imported 100 cats from Egypt in an effort to control the snakes, and they were landed coincidentally about 5 kilometres down the road from here on the Akrotiri Peninsula, and eventually they bred, they multiplied, and they've spread across the whole island. Malcolm's Cats has been going about 30 years, and it was the name Malcolm is the guy who started it. He was an ex-military man on the base, and he started by just feeding the cats down on Ladies Mile Beach, which is about 5 kilometres the other way. Eventually he negotiated with the Ministry of Defence, the British Ministry of Defence, to rent a piece of land, which is where the sanctuary is now, and we've been on this piece of land since 2002, so 15 years. Well, my story is very similar to a lot of our volunteers. I retired to Cyprus, but previously I had been involved with cat charities in the UK, and when the opportunity presented itself I just volunteered, and my role was just cleaning and feeding. And 4 years later, with the change of personnel and things, I've now become chairman. I would like to clarify how we operate. We are all volunteers, so all of the committee, that is myself, the chairman, as the chairman, the secretary, the treasurer, we're all volunteers, and all the people who do the work, they're the real heroes. They're volunteers as well, and they just give their time free for the benefit of the cat. Nobody takes any money out of the place. The money that we manage to raise, it goes towards the cats or the upkeep of the sanctuary. We raised the money. We hold a number of events to raise money. We have bazaars, we have coffee mornings, we have dances, and our supporters are very good at supporting us. They will attend these, they will give us money for raffles and things like that. We do have the occasional bequest. We've recently built a fountain and pool which the cats love, and that was because there was a long-term supporter who unfortunately passed away, and his will recognised us as somebody that he supported for many years, and we were left a sum of money, and we built the water feature to mark that as a thank you. We don't get anything from the government. There are no funds from the government at all. That's a very sensitive issue. I'm quite cynical about the government's attitude towards stray cats and dogs and, you know, other animals on the island. When it's time for an election, all of a sudden there's going to be huge amounts of money being made available, and they will sterilise all the animals and do whatever is necessary. The reality is somewhat different. We had for instance, we had an announcement early in the year, around about February, March time, that there was going to be €100,000 made available for sterilising cats and dogs. We didn't hear anything again until maybe September, and suddenly the figure had dropped by 25%, so it was going to be €75,000, which, don't get me wrong, it's better than nothing. And we kept on saying, where is this money? Where is this money? What's happening? And then finally on the 15th of November, they said, right, the money's available, but you've got to spend it all by the 9th of December, which is physically impossible, because it's left to people like us to go out, catch the cats, take them to the vets, get them sterilised, collect them the next day, catch some more, take them back to the vets. It was just physically impossible, and unless the government get more organised, then the situation is only going to get worse. I can't speak for the government, but their actions would suggest that they don't. You know, they could do so much more. They promote things like, there's just up the road from here, there is a monastery, which is the Monastery of the Cats, and it celebrates the landing of the original cats that I mentioned before. And the problem is that those cats are in very poor condition. Now, it promotes that as a tourist destination to go and see, and that's not doing any favours. I'm surprised that the government can't see that there's an opportunity to, you know, appeal to the tourists by looking after the cats and controlling them. I'm not saying just let them, you know, breed prolifically. What I'm saying is that they need to be managed. Cypriots have a strange attitude towards cats. Well, not strange, it's understandable given the legend. Any graveyard in Cyprus, whether it's in a major city or whether it's in a village, has cats, and the Cypriots will feed them. However, for some reason or another, they won't get them sterilised. So again, they allow them to breed. In the bigger cities, Cypriots have a more westernised view of cats. Hate to generalise, but a lot of people will have a cat as a pet, and they will look after it brilliantly. In the villages and up in the mountains, it's a different. The cat is almost like a working animal. It's there for a purpose. It's not there for as a pet. We are one of a number of associations in Cyprus that take on strays. Obviously, we have here approximately 200 cats. That is the limit that our landlords, the Ministry of Defence, place upon us. So our tenancy agreement states that we can only have 200 cats. They give us a little bit of leeway for the summer months, because in the summer we've got kittens being left in boxes outside the front door, and so we have to take them in, so our numbers can increase to 250 or whatever. But because we managed to home quite a few, particularly kittens, we end up always coming back to this 200 figure. Other associations like us are full, so I don't know what happens there. I suppose that the animals are left to fend for themselves, but we can only do what we can do. We haven't got a rescue operation because we're only operated by volunteers, and we struggle to get enough volunteers to keep this place running. There's no way we could go out and rescue kittens or cats. It is a problem that the government really need to address, but they don't really show any signs of doing so. I think it could have an adverse effect on the attitude of tourists if something isn't done about the number of cats. We constantly get phone calls from tourists saying, oh, they found a sick cat, they found an abandoned kitten, will we take them, things like that. And we've had a number of tourists comment to us that they would never come back to Cyprus because of the amount of stray cats there are. They see that as being cruel. It's a big problem. Wherever you look in Cyprus, there are cat communities. They're not necessarily wild. A lot of them are what they call street cat communities, and they're semi-tame. And they're semi-tame because people feed them. Tourists feed them. But when the tourists go, then the cats are left to scavenge around the restaurants and hotels, and then they become a nuisance. The tourists enjoy seeing the cats here, and they also enjoy seeing the cats in the street, at the beach, wherever, and they will generally feed them. The only trouble is that after their 2 weeks and they've gone home, as long as there's still tourists coming out, they still get fed, as I mentioned earlier. Once the tourist season is over, then the cats are scraping round to be fed. But generally the tourists enjoy seeing the cats, so there's certainly no evidence of cruelty or anything like that. I mean, cats have to eat, and they'll eat whatever they can get hold of. I mean, our cats live in luxury because they get proper cat food and all the rest of it, but the cats out in the street, at times they are surviving on thrown away burger buns, and any food outlet has cats hanging around. It's certainly not a balanced diet. It's not a balanced diet for human beings, so it's not going to be a balanced diet for cats. But they get by, but they're not as healthy as they might be. And the trouble is that the cats will breed and breed and breed, and then suddenly there are so many, and then nature intervenes, and nature will introduce a disease, and that disease will wipe out large numbers of cats, and it's horrible to see, but it's nature doing what nature does, because it wants to make sure that some will survive. The simple way is to sterilise the cats. There are a number of schemes which are that operate on the island, but again they're operated by individuals or charities like ourselves, and that's again, they go out, they catch cats, they have to take them to the vets, they get them sterilised, and then they put them back into the area where they were found. If ever you see a cat out in a street community that's been sterilised, they've usually got a nick out of the ear to show that they've been sterilised. So there are moves on an ongoing basis to try and control the numbers, but sometimes you feel as though you're fighting against the tide. There is the potential for disease, and they would be treated like vermin. I hope it doesn't get to that stage. I don't know where that, I don't know where it will go unless something firm is done to control the numbers.